Well, Sandra, welcome to the program, and I really appreciate your time. Now, the Federated Farmers 2022 local election platform, I've had a look at this. It's really good, isn't it? It's a good online tool for those who've, just been elected.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it was actually a resource that we put together for candidates standing prior to the election as well, just to get that rural lens across some of their thinking. It's difficult for everybody to be across everything that ratepayers, irrespective of their background, want of them. So this was just an opportunity to give them that rural insight.
So now they're in. What's the advice? What do you think they have to really look out for?
Do the basics really well. That's all we ask for is understanding that council infrastructure and services, their core businesses, are what we as farmers rely on to be able to understand, to access, to get good response times. Those are the things that are so important to us and our businesses.
Generally speaking, do you find that most councils are pretty good at that sort of thing?
Well, councils are creatures of statute, so there are very clear guidelines and driving forces as to where and why they do things. It is, as a councillor, it's very tempting to run off on your pet projects or what it is that you feel you stand for or you represent. But local government is an extension of central government, and the rules are extraordinarily rigid. And so that can be frustrating. And as a councillor, you sometimes find yourself coming up against the things that you thought you could influence, but in actual fact, you can't. And that's where your senior management teams, your CEOs, heads of finance, lifelines, whatever, your directors are just so important. They are integral to a council operating really well.
Would you suggest that for most councils, the core thing is the infrastructure is the priority?
It's the underlying parts of your roading, it's drainage, it's all the really uncool stuff that we actually just all take for granted. And that's what councils provide. That said, however, there's also the really cool, fun stuff. It's the libraries and the swimming pools and your parks and your reserves. And that's where we get to celebrate what councils do.
Of course, I know one of the topics of late has been the winter grazing and the lack of farm plans for that, and the fact that the consents will be going through the regional councils, and what a nightmare that's going to be if there's 10,000 people all wanting a consent pretty much at the same time.
Well, the problem is that you actually need people doing that. And for a lot of councils, getting their teams up to strength in those parts of the country where winter grazing is a really big part of what we do. Sheer numbers in order to get those consents all through, to be able to provide the framework for farmers to sit within their compliance requirements.
Out of interest, do you have an idea of how many farmers have got on to councils? Is that something that you follow?
I don't yet, and the reason I'm not confident on numbers yet is, of course, that a lot of councils, especially if they've gone into STV voting, have only just at the end of last week reached their notifiable council. So those candidates that were perhaps at the lower end of the STV voting numbers, or higher end, whichever way you want to look at it. They weren't first past the post. It's a real challenge for councils, and I feel for their democracy services and their CEOs as they wrestle with a whole bunch of different platforms, be it Māori wards, be it STV and the change in voting structure, and that's never mind public opinion that is sending messages as to where and which way candidates feel they should land.
Well, there you go. Well, it's a great thing to take on. It's quite a privilege, I'm sure, for people to get elected and stuff, but boy, oh boy, it's quite a lot of work involved, isn't it?
It is a lot of work, but it is such a valuable platform to us all as communities, irrespective of where we sit, be it business or private or whatever. The role that those councillors fill is just so important to us as a country, and I cannot congratulate those that have been successful enough, and wish them well on their journey. But equally to those that stood, it's really important to understand the courage that it takes to be in that space, and applaud them for that. So thanks to them as well.